We're less than a day away from the newest update for Zenless Zone Zero, so I wanted to talk about it. Today, we'll be taking a look at the special program and the teaser video that was posted in order to get an idea of what 1.3 has to offer, based on all the official information that we have on it so far. I'm Swift, and I'll be your proxy today as we dive into everything that's coming in patch 1.3 of ZZZ. Let's start with the story. This patch won't have a Faith in Story chapter, and instead we're getting a new special episode called Virtual Revenge. This special episode is told from the point of view of the Deputy Chief of Section 6, Tsukishiro Yanagi. This should be structured similarly to the special episode that we got in 1.1, Undercover R&B, which followed Jane Doe's point of view. Faith and Will still show up, as we can see from this group photo, but they'll have a much more minor role in this story. This story focuses on Section 6 as they work alongside the HIA to test and record data on some confidential new equipment, but evidently this operation ends up getting hijacked by a nefarious third party. This special episode will also introduce a new map, which looks like the headquarters of HAND, the division that Section 6 belongs to, and also, although not a new map, we do get to see that it will feature combat in a virtual version of Lumina Square. There were some teases throughout the special program that this is just the beginning of Section 6's role in the story, and they will apparently have some involvement in the Vision trial in the future, so we'll likely see that in a continuation of the Faith and story coming most likely in 1.4. We're also getting an agent story for Lighter called The Unsung Champion. This story takes place within the 3 days following Caesar becoming the Overlord during a period called Settlement Days. In these few days after a new Overlord is crowned, anyone can settle past grudges by issuing challenges to the new Overlord. With Lighter being the champion of the Sons of Calydon, it looks like it'll fall on him to take these challengers on. It is noted that this has been treated as more of a festival in recent times, so I'd expect this story to have a more light-hearted tone, at least for the beginning portions of it. While both of these story chapters are permanently available, they are being presented in a different way during this patch with the introduction of a TV schedule system. This is Hoyo's way of incentivizing players to complete the story-focused content that's on offer during this patch quickly. By completing portions of their stories, completing certain tasks, or from completing other stages that these TV schedules have to offer, you'll receive tokens that can be exchanged for rewards from an event shop. We can see that Yanagi's TV schedule, Moonlight Traces, has both the special episode and some combat trial stages to complete. Lighter's TV schedule, The Undisputed Champion, has Lighter's agent story, combat trials, and an additional set of special play stages that are presented in the form of a side-scrolling beat-em-up. The rewards that these schedules provide look pretty promising, and Lighter's TV schedule even has a hamster cage pass on offer, so make sure that you get these done before they do go away. When it comes to characters, there are 2 new S ranks coming in this patch. For the sake of time, I'm going to keep this section brief and just cover the main points for each of these characters and what they bring to the table. For Yanagi specifically, early access videos about her are already out, so I've linked a few of those in the description and you can watch them to get a more comprehensive idea of how she works. Let's talk about Yanagi first. Tsukishiro Yanagi is a S-rank electric anomaly agent from Section 6. Yanagi's main role is as a disorder-focused character who is able to apply shock from on-field and trigger additional disorder damage. Yanagi's core passive increases the damage multiplier of disorder, making her the first character who specifically benefits from the disorder mechanic. Yanagi's additional ability triggers when she is paired with another anomaly character or another electric character, making her the first character that does not trigger her ability by being paired with a member of her faction. Her additional ability increases her electric anomaly buildup rate after she switches stances and hits an enemy with a basic attack. Yanagi has 2 stances, which she can swap between by using her special or her EX special. When switching stances, Yanagi gains a buff based on the stance that she switches to, and you can see these buffs on the top left of her screen, and they last for 8 seconds. You're able to maintain both of them as long as you're able to swap between her stances frequently. Yanagi has a unique mechanic called Polarity Disorder, which she can trigger by using either her EX special or her ultimate on an enemy that is already suffering from an attribute anomaly. By doing so, Yanagi triggers a mini disorder effect on the enemy without removing their current anomaly, and this damage counts as disorder damage, so it does benefit from the bonus that her core passive gives her. Yanagi's main 2 teams seem to be either disorder-focused teams or shock-focused teams. Her disorder-focused team should perform better since she is a disorder carry after all, and would see her paired with 1 anomaly partner and 1 supportive character. Brittany should be her best anomaly partner due to her ability to apply burn from off-field. Anomaly characters like Jane or Piper are options that you could play in a more quick swap style of team, but they might run into some field time issues and they'll have lower damage outputs overall. For shock-focused teams, I think the best path is to pair Yanagi with 2 supportive characters that are focused on boosting her damage output. Rina is particularly useful due to her ability to increase shock duration, buff electric damage, and her team-wide pen ratio buff that she provides as well. Other options like Caesar, Seth, or Lucy should be nice as well. I do think that these teams will perform worse than her Disorder teams due to her focus on Disorder damage, but she will still be able to access some of that with her Polarity Disorders from her EX and her Ultimate. I personally wouldn't recommend pairing Yanagi with Grace, since Yanagi's able to keep her shocks up consistently on her own, and any excess shock buildup does go to waste in a shock-focused team. It's likely just a better option to run her as more of a hyper carry in this style of team and have her being buffed more. The other S-rank in this patch is Lighter, a S-rank fire stun agent from the Sons of Calydon. Lighter's core passive focuses on his morale gauge, which builds up over time and can be seen at the top left of the screen. When his morale is high enough, switching to him will immediately trigger a quick assist that directly leads into his 5th basic attack hit, and upon doing his 5th basic attack, he enters the morale burst state. Once in this state, Lighter increases his impact and starts to consume morale when damaging enemies. His attacks in the state also reduce the fire and ice resistance of enemies and increases their stun duration, but the amounts of these effects weren't revealed. Lighter's additional ability triggers when he's paired with an attack agent or a member of the Sons of Calydon, so it's a very similar condition to what Qingyi has, and it should make him very versatile. This ability allows him to increase the team's ice and fire damage when he hits enemies during his morale state. We can see a buff icon that builds stacks when Lighter hits enemies in this state, and this buff does transfer to other characters in this team, so it's safe to assume that this is the damage buff and it stacks up to 20 times. However, we don't have the value for what each stack of this damage bonus will end up being. Since Lighter is in direct competition with characters like Koleda and Lycon, since he will be used mostly in fire and ice focused teams, I would imagine that his resistance debuffs and his damage buffs are substantial enough to make him a stronger option in both of these styles of teams. For teammates, he should pair well with fire DPS characters like Soldier 11, or ice DPS characters like Ellen, M6 Sokaku, or potentially Miyabi when we get her. It's hard to say how valuable he will end up being though without his specific numbers, but I don't think Hoyo would release a S-rank character that isn't good. Now let's talk about the banners specifically. For the first half of the patch, we'll have Yanagi and her S-rank W engine Time Weaver. The A-ranks on her banners are Anby, Billy, and their signature W engines Damara Battery Mark II, and Starlight Engine Replica. For the second half of the patch, we'll have Lighter and his S-rank W engine Blazing Laurel. The A-ranks on his banners are Ben and Corin, and their signature W engines Big Cylinder and Housekeeper. The only A-rank that I play out of these characters is Anby, so I'm not going to pretend that I know much about them. All of these characters are given for free, so you'll already have access to them all, and none of them synergize particularly well with the S-ranks that are on offer. Both Billy and Corin seem like they get a nice performance boost from their Mindscapes, but as a whole, the A-ranks on these banners seem generally less desirable to pull for than what we got from a banner like Bernice's. In addition to new agents, we're also getting 2 new Bangboo this patch. Boo is a new A-rank Bangboo that's getting added to the Bangboo banner. This Bangboo was present in the Undercover R&B special episode and was the Bangboo that was given to you when you played as Jane. Boo does fire damage with its active skill and chain attack. Since it's an A-rank, you won't be able to select it as a target for pulling, but it can just randomly show up in your pulls from now on. Boo, another A-rank Bangboo, is a free event reward that you can claim from the Mystery of Arpeggio Fault. This will also give you the duplicate items that you need to max it out, just like what happened with Lucky Boo in the 1.0 event. And this Bangboo is only accessible through this event, so make sure that you get it before it goes away. Nightboo's active skill drops 3 stars onto the field, and picking up a star recovers energy. Nightboo's chain attack deals ether damage. Now, let's talk about some of the major permanent content that's coming to the game with this patch. First off is the mode that I'm most excited for, the Simulated Battle Trial. This is described in the teaser as a virtual tower with endless combat trials and a hidden message at the top. Basically, this is a combat-focused tower mode that will involve completing multiple floors that become more difficult as you continue to progress. To add to this survival challenge, the HP of agents will carry over between floors and only gets recovered upon completing a certain phase. The specifics of what actually counts as a phase haven't been revealed, but we do see a message on floor 9 that says there are 2 floors left to complete the challenge. With this, I'd make the assumption that we get healed every 5 floors, at least early on in the tower. And this does match up with the fact that we can see both floor 5 and 10 are colored in orange, making them distinct from the other floors. You'll also be able to periodically add agents to your reserves, and you should be able to freely select from the characters that are in your reserves when starting a floor. If a character dies in combat, they'll be rendered unavailable until you complete the phase that you're on. We can also see various buff effects that are applied to enemies to make this mode more challenging. On floor 9, we can see that enemies get a demonized and resilience boost buff for 15 seconds after they recover from being stunned. And there was a mention that the Ballet Twins bosses, the twin marionettes, are able to revive faster than usual, which is very similar to the Uncanny Valley 2 and 3 corruption effects that they get access to in Hollow Zero. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see similar effects applied to the other bosses as well. Unfortunately, there aren't many specifics about the structure of this mode that have been revealed so far, but we can speculate a little. In the special program, we're able to see this player profile page, which sports 2 badges, and the one on the right is the one that we're interested in. The bronze badge with the number 25 under it is presumably awarded for clearing 25 floors of the tower, and it was mentioned in the special program that you'll receive badges as you progress further into the tower. Assuming that these badges are equally spaced out, we can make a guess that there will be a silver badge at 50 floors, a gold badge at 75 floors, and potentially a platinum badge at 100 floors. This could be a huge naive reach on my part, or there's a chance that these later floors end up getting added in future patches, but I'm personally hoping that we're going to end up seeing 75 floors in this initial patch. As a whole, I think that this mode is extremely promising, and I think it's great to see that the devs are willing to offer more challenge-based combat content that isn't structured like Shiyu Defense, although we won't really get to tell how challenging this mode actually will end up being until we can get our hands on it. I also think that there's a good chance that more floors with newer enemies will get added to this mode over time, since there is no indication that these floors will reset after a certain period of time. So either adding extra floors or a full separate tower in this mode seems like the likely way that they will go about updating this mode in the future. Now let's talk about the major event that's coming in this patch, the Mystery of Arpeggio Fault. This event is a TV roguelike mode that acts as an expansion to Hollow Zero. Once this patch is over, this event will still be accessible through the Ridu Chronicle, just like the Overlord's Feast event from 1.2, but there will be a good amount of limited rewards that you can only get from completing this event during patch 1.3. This mode consists of 5 different chapters, each of which has multiple randomly generated floors. As far as I can tell from the footage and descriptions that we've been given, this mode will consist entirely of TV gameplay, so for all of you TV lovers, this is one for you. I've seen people comparing this to the Prophecy side quest, and that does seem pretty accurate when it comes to the exploration in this mode. Combat is slightly different, however, since this mode seems to use a simpler and faster system of just walking into enemies to initiate your attacks, instead of transitioning into a more turn-based style of combat like the Prophecy did. By defeating enemies in combat, you'll gain XP, which is shown by the bar on the bottom of the screen where the pressure bar in Hollow Zero would normally be, and when you fill your XP bar, you'll gain a level, which can be seen where your corruptions would normally be. These levels will boost the effects of the Blessing group that you can select at the start. The Resonia that you obtain in this mode will affect the TV board instead of being combat focused. You'll also be able to get companions, of which Bangboo Resonia were mentioned, and we get to see Bangboo following along the player and fighting nearby enemies on their own. We also get to see both Korin and Yanagi as companions, and they do have their own Resonia tied to them. We also get to see other characters like Billy present in a shop area, so that might be the way that we're able to recruit them, or they might just be there to provide some other form of benefits. As you progress through this mode, you'll also get resources that you can use to upgrade a skill tree which carries over between the different chapters. What kind of effects these skills will have, though, hasn't really been revealed yet. Now, let's talk about the other events that are coming in 1.3. There are 4 events that are repeating from this current patch 1.2 that I'll briefly cover. We have our 2 daily login events that give 10 encrypted master tapes and 10 boopons. The encrypted master tapes will be given in the first half of the patch, and the boopons in the second half. We'll also be getting 2 double drop events, the Data Bounty Combat Simulation and the Advanced Bounty Routine Cleanup. Durations for these events weren't announced, but if they do match with what we got in 1.2, then we'll get 5 days worth of each of these. We'll also have 4 new events, which I'll briefly cover here. Virtual Battlefield Mayhem is a combat-focused event that's hosted by the HIA that has you complete stages using only a single agent and a Bangboo. Each of these stages will have different buffs that you can take advantage of. This event has 3 difficulty options which you can select from, as we can see on the top right here, and on this basic difficulty there are a total of 5 stages to fight. We do also get to see some combat against the new boss enemy in this event, which will most likely be introduced during the special episode in this patch. The Enna Assistant Program is a Bangboo-focused event that looks very similar to the Bangboo event that we had back in 1.0. This event will give you multiple tasks. We can see one here where you have to take a picture of a group of Bangboos that fulfills certain requirements, and here's another one that has you watch a short video and count the number of Bangboo that appear. When Sandwiches Comes a Knockin' is an event where you help a food truck in Lumina Square deliver food to customers. There are 5 stages of this event which will unlock over time, and each stage seems to come in 3 different parts: placing the order, delivering the food, and getting feedback from the customer. For order placing, it looks like we'll be presented with orders from a certain customer, and then have to pick the corresponding food items that satisfy their requests. We can also see the proxy delivering some food alongside a Bangboo here. Help Kai seems like a very straightforward event that will give you rewards for completing some relatively easy tasks. We can see a total of 5 weekly goals in this tab here, which will give a total of 200 polychromes for the week. There's also an HIA Affairs tab, which has at least 6 other one-time clear rewards that are tied to other tasks. The event duration for this wasn't revealed, but we can assume that it'll span at least 2 weeks since there is that weekly goals tab. Now let's talk about some of the other changes and additions that are coming in 1.3. We'll start with some of the bigger ones and then rapid fire through the small ones after. A new location in Lumina Square called Sanzi Studio is now accessible. This is based off of a real-life company that has worked on music for ZZZ, and we've been able to see Yi outside there since the launch of the game. We'll also be able to buy figurines from this location and use them to decorate a display shelf in our room. This shop will use a new currency, which you can now obtain from the new Ridu weekly rewards, so let's talk about that next. The Errands and Weekly Missions tab has been updated in 1.3. As a nice quality of life change, daily errands will now still display if they have been completed or not once you reach your daily engagement cap. The weekly tasks have been completely overhauled and now take place on a bingo board-like system. Each task that you complete on the board gets you 100 points, and you'll also get 150 points for completing a line of tasks. You need to reach 1,300 points per week in order to get all of your weekly rewards, and the rewards can be seen here. There are a total of 9 different types of tasks that are available each week. Some of these are similar to what you'd normally be doing for your dailies, such as managing the video store twice or drinking coffee 4 times. Others seem to be new though, like landmark photography, which in this case requires you to take a picture of the Boundless Blaze sign, or the neighborhood secrets and help the Bangboo tasks, which seem like small requests that might cycle on a weekly basis. As a whole, these weeklies will now take longer to complete than the current ones that we've had, but they give a lot more in terms of rewards, so it's a very welcome change. This overhaul for the weeklies will only take place after the first weekly reset of the patch, so this will be happening on November 11th. We also now have the ability to craft higher rarity master copies. These are the materials that are used for tuning drive discs. We can see that it's a 5-to-1 conversion from purple to gold, so 15 purples will get you 1 S-rank drive disc, and this leads to slightly better overall rates than the current 25 purples that you need to guarantee 1 S-rank. Another set of changes are focused on the player profile pages. The name cards are now bigger, and you can now display titles and badges on your profile. When it comes to badges, we can see 2 of them here, with the one on the left being awarded for unlocking the critical node of Shiyu Defense, and the one on the right being awarded from the simulated battle trial. Titles seem to be mostly tied to achievements, but there is a title called Red Scarf Associate that has a clock icon on it, so there's a chance that there will be some titles that are only available for a limited time as well. Now let's rapid fire through some of the smaller changes and quality of life updates. Yanagi and Lighter will be receiving their own agent profile pages, trust rank events, name cards, and backgrounds. We do get to see Yanagi's name card for her Mindscape 3 teased on the profile here. The Challenge tab has now been renamed to Combat and will contain more permanent gameplay modes. This tab also lets you quickly access the logistics shop that's present in Scott Outpost. There's a new Tactics tab that's been added, which lets you access the VR training and other tutorials. The Tactics tab has 11 tutorials, each one gives 150 XP, 30 polychromes, and 2 investigator logs. Expert challenges, notorious hunts, and routine cleanups will now have a related agent button that shows you what agents can benefit from the drops that those stages provide. Material crafting and dismantling is now more convenient, and you can now craft from a Rarity 1 type material up to a Rarity 3 type material directly, and the inverse is true as well for dismantling. Drive discs can now be sorted by the time that they were obtained. And lastly, you can now pin agents and Bangboo to make them appear at the top of their selection pages. And that just about covers everything that we've seen when it comes to patch 1.3. If you made it to the end of this video, thank you for watching, I really appreciate it. Please consider leaving this video a like, it lets me know that people enjoy this kind of content, and it also just helps the channel out as a whole. And if you made it 20 minutes into this, you probably didn't hate this video, I would hope. If you want to see more content from me, consider subscribing! I think it would be really cool if we could hit 500 subs by the end of the month, and I'll be putting out more content once 1.3 is out. Anyways, that's enough shilling from me. I hope you all enjoy patch 1.3, and I wish you the best of luck on your polls if you are going for either Yanagi or lighter. I've really enjoyed ZZZ up to this point, and I'm very hopeful that things will continue moving in a good direction going forward. Thank you so much for watching.